I'm Justin Mott, real-life photographer, Leica user, guy that wears weird hats, former reality TV show host for 5 years on a TV show on History Channel Asia that you've probably never heard of called Photo Face Off. I'm a wildlife photojournalist and editorial photographer, assignment photographer. I've shot over 100 assignments for the New York Times, and I own and operate a commercial photography and video production company called Mott Visuals out of Vietnam, working globally. My channel is dedicated to all things photography from the perspective of a professional working photographer. Today I want to talk about some of the most ridiculous things that I've heard as a photographer, and I have heard a lot of ridiculous things, so let's get ridiculous today. Before I get into the ridiculous things I've heard, please take a moment to like and subscribe if you're new here. And if you're new here, also you can look in the description box for stuff that I sell. I won't even go through the whole spiel. Just sell stuff. It's in there. If you're interested, buy it. If not, don't buy it. Watch, comment, don't comment, whatever you want to do. Who am I to tell you what to do? Anyway, let's get into it. Some of the most ridiculous things that I've heard as a photographer. Coming in at number one was on a commercial shoot. We took out our drone. We put the drone on the ground. The client said to us, "What are you doing with that toy drone? You build us for a drone. You build us for a drone pilot. How does your drone pilot fit into that toy drone?" A lot of things to sort of digest there. So, okay, in their defense, it was the early days of drones, so they weren't really sure about the size. It was a phantom drone, so yeah, not gigantic, but not tiny either. Definitely not big enough to fit a human inside of it, and I don't really know what they're expecting there. That's the part that's ridiculous to me. It's like ridiculous served two ways. It's either they were expecting a giant drone that a human could fit into, or they were expecting a smaller human that could fit into that drone. So they had thought maybe we had shrunk a human and could fit them into that drone because we had billed for a drone pilot. That's how we list things out when we're doing our quote. So they were sort of like challenging our quote and challenging why they were paying for that. Like, yes, it's a drone operator or drone pilot. It's semantics, how you want to call or name that person. But that is easily the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I don't even know how to answer that. I don't even know how to talk more about that. It's just ridiculous. I can't top it, can't answer it. If you want to tune out now, you could, because that's easily the best one that I have. Number two on the list was on a commercial shoot, shooting for a client through an ad firm, and I will interrupt myself right now just to say working with ad firms can be awful. I would say most of my experience with ad firms has been horrible. They make all the money, they don't contribute much to the shoot. Their job is to look like they're managing you and dealing with you and putting up with the photographer. And you might say, maybe they need it if you're this much of a jerk. I'm not. Actually, in real life, I'm very easy to work with, very easy to deal with. This is just my little venting sessions so that I don't become very difficult to deal with. I get it out now. And actually, my business, Mott Visuals, was founded because I was sick of working with ad agencies. I had some really horrible experiences, and I realized, like, especially for a lot of our hotel shoots, everything they were doing, we could do, and we could do it cheaper, we could do it better, and then we could make more money as a business, and we knew what we were doing a lot better than they did. So yes, there are the exceptions, but that's been my experiences. When I work directly with a client, better product, cheaper product, and me as a photographer makes more money. So saving the client money, better product, and I'm making more money. So it seemed like a no-brainer. It was a no-brainer, is a no-brainer. Never look back. Most of the time, I don't have to work with ad agencies, thank God. Because again, I just find them ridiculous, and you're about to find out why. So I was working on a shoot, and basically it was like a Groundhog Day shoot. It was the same thing, 3 days, but 3 different couples that were 3 different ethnicities. Does that make sense? One couple is supposed to be from the Middle East, one couple is supposed to be Caucasian, and the other couple is supposed to be Asian. Okay, sounds easy, no problem. Again, ad team did everything. They did the casting. I wasn't involved in anything. Sometimes, yes, as a photographer, you weigh in on the models. This was not the case. This was a big ad agency. They handled all that. I was a hired gun. We do a lot of that stuff ourselves in my production company, where we actually hire the models. For any of you out there that do that kind of work, if you can do everything yourself, take it on, because again, better money, more efficient, better product in the end. So on the day of shooting the Asian couple, and just add a little bit to add here, this was actually shot, I'm not going to give too much away because I don't want to offend anyone, but this was shot actually in Asia, which adds to the ridiculous level, brings the ridiculous meter maybe even off the screen here. The Asian couple, first time I saw them was the morning of the shoot. The female model was from Croatia. Now, I am not a geography major, but I'll grab my, I'm not a geography major, but I'll grab my globe here. Nope, Croatia is not in Asia. Yeah, no, it's not, so we'll put that away. So she was Caucasian and looked as Caucasian as I look. I can't really pass for other ethnicities. So I was thinking, okay, they must have worked this out. They, the higher ups, all the big money, all the big decision makers, they've worked this out fine. So I'm shooting about, 2 hours in, the light's really good, things are going well. I see them huddling over. I'm like, oh, talking. The client's talking to the ad agency. They're pointing to me, they're pointing to the model. Okay, I can just feel it. As a photographer, you kind of feel these things. It's just like this fog or this warmth. It's like approaching, and slowly the person from the ad agency came over like, Justin, can I talk to you for a second? And yes, guess what she said? She's like, you know what, the client's a little bit concerned that the model, the female model, looks too Caucasian. Like, yeah, she is. She's white. And that's the evilness of the ad agency. Rather than taking the responsibility, they pass the buck. That's what they do. They deflect. They don't absorb, they deflect. So when the client said that, they said, we'll talk to the photographer. And she came over and said, just do your best. And I could just feel it. Like I knew what they were doing. I knew they were passing the responsibility. So, I know exactly what they said. They'd probably talk to the client and say, oh, the photographer, he can in post-production or with the angles or the light. And I'm like, what do you mean? No, she's white, we're in Asia, why didn't you get an Asian model is what I was thinking. But of course I was very polite and I wasn't this version of me yet. I still wouldn't probably say that on a shoot. I just say it now because nobody's listening. Didn't hire an Asian model for the day we're supposed to shoot an Asian couple and we were in Asia. Pretty ridiculous to me. And of course deflected and put the responsibility on me as the photographer to make her Asian, which I don't know how to do, nor do I want to do that. The next one on my list falls into the category of no good deed goes unpunished. I was a young, spry, naive, friendly, easygoing photographer, not so jaded, not corrupted by this world that I'm talking about now. It was one of my first commercial shoots and it was for a fish farm company. I charged a flat day rate. It was a commercial shoot, but I was shooting in a very editorial style way. So I said I could deliver about 50 images. I was there at sunrise. I made sure we started very early. They thought I was crazy for starting early, but I was like, no, I want to get the beautiful light in the morning and I want to work until it's dark. And the lady was like, okay, fine. She stayed with me. She got bored. She left. She left me with her brother. She said she had to go to some meeting. Probably took like a 3-hour lunch. The brother worked at the fish farm as well. He pointed and told me to do things like, oh yeah, he knows what he's talking about. So he pointed to stuff. I took this photo, that photo, had my list, shot extra stuff. End of the day, worked my butt off. At the end of the day, I was very happy with what I got. Came home, this is how long ago it was. I burned them a CD with the images on it, mailed it to them very confidently. A couple days later, probably a couple weeks later, calls me frantically. She's like, listen, we've got a little bit of a problem. I'm like, what went wrong? I was pretty confident about these images. I gave them 100 images rather than 50 because I had so many good ones. And it wasn't like I was repeating. I did a pretty good edit, but I still had a bunch of images. What did she say to me, of course? She said, well, the problem is we're happy with the photographs, but you gave us 100 and we only needed 50, like you said. I'm like, oh no, yeah, not a problem. Though I'm not charging you more. Those are fine. Those are included in my rate. All good. Keep them. Do what you want with them. She's like, oh yeah, but my boss saw them and he said, well, why are we paying for 100? He sent 100 photos. He took 100 photos. So we want to pay him half of the fee we agreed upon. I thought it was like a lost in translation thing. I was like, no, yeah, but no, don't worry about it. Like, they're yours, take them. And he's like, no, you don't understand. So my boss now thinks that you took too many photos. Like, basically like I was charging per photograph. Like, well, no, I was charging you for the day and the time and the usage, but I'm giving all these extra ones for nothing because, she's like, well, a lot of the shots we didn't need. The stuff you took with my brother, we don't need those kind of photographs. I'm like, yeah, but I got everything that you asked me to get, and then you left me with your brother and said to listen to him, and I got the extra shots that he got, and worked harder and didn't take any breaks, and took a quick lunch so I could keep shooting. And she's like, oh, well, yeah, anyway, she got all flustered about that. She got all flustered because I was right, and she said, yeah, okay, but I don't know how to explain this to my boss. Can you just do me a favor and only invoice us for half the fee? And that would be very helpful, and that'll help us work together more in the future. And first of all, like that one as a photographer, that's something I should mention. That deserves its own, but I'm just gonna put it now. Anytime that you people out there say to us, like, do us a favor this time or work for free this time, and trust me, it'll be a lot of work. So like, people that say that, like dismiss your contract, dismiss your rate or the way you work or your morals and sell us your soul this time. And in the end, it'll pay off for you. It's like, that doesn't work, by the way, because they're telling you right up front they don't value their time. So if they don't now, they're not going to magically in the future value your time. So never do that. Like, clients don't say that, but I can't stop them, but I can talk to you guys. Photographers, don't fall for that one. Don't fall for the one of like, do it really cheap this time and trust me, it'll be a pipeline of work. Like, bull. They say that to everybody. That's what they do. That's their move. Don't fall for that. And so me, luckily at the time, even though I was naive enough to give away free pictures and think that they would be happy about it, what was I thinking? I actually said, no, this is ridiculous. I stuck to my principles. I said, I took extra photos, and the extra photos I took were with the person that you left me with. You're the one that left me with this person and told me to listen to him. How am I supposed to know what you need and what you don't need? If he's telling me that and you left me with him, that's on you. And if you can't explain this to your boss, that's on you. And she's, oh, well, that's really a shame. And I said, yeah, and it is. And if that's the way you work, I don't want to work with you in the future. And that felt really good to say that. And then she tried to like not pay. I threatened legal action. And then she did eventually pay. And guess what? We didn't work with each other. And that was just fine by me. The next one didn't actually personally happen to me, but it did happen to a photographer shooting for my business mod visual, so I'm gonna say that that counts. So our photographer was talking to the client. Their property was directly behind them. So imagine where this picture is. And the client was looking out at a river. So you got property, you got river, and they said, is there any way, I don't know. And this is one version of that, but people do this. Like they say things like, I don't know, you're the photographer. Is there any way you can get that in the shot and that? So basically what they're saying is like, is there any way that you can defy physics? No, we can't. I can't film me here and film what's behind my camera. It can't happen. Okay, yes, you nerds out there, well, you could use a 360 camera, but that's not what they meant. Or you could say, well, maybe they meant like on an angle, get the river. No, that's also not what they meant. They actually just didn't think. That's the problem with Photoshop. That's the problem with people not understanding what we do. Like, what do you mean? That just doesn't make any logical sense. How can we shoot one way and have that in the shot too? I mean, yes, we could put in that view behind you in Photoshop, but that's misleading. It won't make sense and it will look stupid. None of it made any sense. It was all just built and ridiculous. And that whole comment to people when they say, I don't know, you're the photographer, you can figure out. Yes, we can figure out how to make something more beautiful. We can move things and things like that in Photoshop, but like defying the laws of physics, we haven't got there yet as photographers, sorry. And the last but not least on my list is a client once had said to me after the deliverables were like, we're very happy with the photographs. This was a shoot for a property that basically had 3 different tiers of properties within their hero property. They had luxury, they had like sort of mid-level, and then they had budget. The problem with this property is they thought of all this stuff afterwards. So everything was built the same. Lobbies, restaurants, room categories, everything was built the same. Then later on afterwards, they said, we want to separate them into different tiers, but it's the same thing. Usually, just a little note to people out there, usually think of that stuff ahead of time. You change the size of the rooms, you change the decor, things like that. You think about ahead of it, not afterwards. So then afterwards, they said, the problem is you made our worst property look too beautiful. Now, if you just digest that quickly as a photographer, you're like, really? It's like the best compliment you can get. Like, I made something that didn't look nice. Amazing. In commercial photography, that's a fantastic compliment. You feel wonderful about yourself. But they were actually mad at me. And this was not a shoot with models. I know what you're thinking, like, oh, you could change the models, the look of the models, the props, the clothing, all that kind of stuff. Nothing to do with models. It was all product shots. So all interiors, all exteriors, that's it. They actually had expected me to take like bad photographs, like composed not as nice or bad light and things like that. Like, none of this was communicated during the shoot. This was all just said afterwards. Our concern is the worst property looks too nice. I'm like, I don't know what to say to that. I still don't know what to say to that. And I think that's actually the perfect place to end. That's all for today, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I'd like to hear the most ridiculous things you've heard as a photographer. Put those in the comments section. See if you can beat me. If you can, that's wonderful. I would love to hear it. I'm sure you guys have amazing things to say. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful day.